Hey Luke, have you heard the news?
What's the news, Michael?
The Oscar nominations are finally out, despite being so delayed.
Wow, wow, wow. I can't wait. I mean, I'm so excited, Michael. I'm always excited when the Oscar nominations roll around, but especially this year because there's been 2 extra months, which means there's bound to be even more amazing news released. That's the way I look at it, and that's the way it is, right?
No, yeah, I mean, it's just so weird because I don't know why, but I don't care about any of the films. I feel like there's not been anything interesting, and it's why we were actually, when we were talking about doing a cold open, I only just remembered, like, oh yeah, the Oscar nominations are out, but genuinely, yeah, there's nothing interesting. So how's that for a cold open?
Well, yeah, it's the best thing about the Oscar nominations is you get mad at it, and you get mad at them even though you haven't seen the movies. I mean, I don't because, I'm a normal, rational, not insane human being. But other people do, and it's fun to see those takes. But those takes just haven't happened this year. Another thing that COVID has taken from us. I pray when we're reviewing Judas and the Black Messiah and Promising Young Woman next year that we do have some stellar takes on whatever snubs happen in the 2022 Oscars. That's what we're all hoping for, and I pray we return back to normality soon.
Well, I'll tell you what, the biggest snub next year is most likely going to be the Snyder Justice League cut.
They hate Zack Snyder, but they're not going to give him his due, are they?
Yes. Oh, dear. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the 60-year anniversary of Breakfast at Tiffany's. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Sure thing, Michael. So, Breakfast at Tiffany's is a 1961 American romantic comedy film directed by Blake Edwards, written by George Axelrod. I wonder if he's got any relation to David Axelrod. You know what? I'll check that out in a bit, maybe. Adapted from Truman Capote's 1958 novella of the same name, Breakfast at Tiffany's. It stars Audrey Hepburn, of course, George Peppard, Patricia Neal, Brody Ebsen, Martin Balsam, Mickey Rooney. Oh yeah, he was in that. I can't really remember the character he played. I didn't recognize Mickey Rooney, but he was in there somewhere. And José Luis de Villalonga. José Luis de Villalonga. The release date was October the 5th. That was the Brazilian guy, by the way. October the 5th, 1961, in the worldwide apparently. So yeah, we're not exactly 60 years, but we wanted to do it this week because we just needed to review it, and this was the only slot available, I guess. And so, Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for Breakfast at Tiffany's?
No, I cannot, because this film was released ages ago, and I've kind of already I don't have any idea in my head of how the kind of inflation and all that sort of stuff works, and then obviously I don't know about.
Guess.
Yeah, okay,
I'll go.
Yeah, all right.
700,000 is a lot of money.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So 700,000 is a lot of money. Okay, let's say with that 700,000. So yeah, 2 million.
Very good guess, Michael. Very good guess. 2.5 million.
It'd be funny if you went very good guess. It was actually 700,000.
No, the budget was 2.5 million, which again probably about, I don't know, 250 million. I don't know about the inflation. But yeah, so that was the budget. What about the box office, Michael? How much did this make?
Well, again, I mean, I guess I'm trying to think about the fact this was like a big film, but then at the same time, I mean, oh goodness me, I think it probably made like quite a lot. So maybe 50 million seems like a lot. That would be like a lot times that would be like so much time. That would be like 20 times its budget back. No, maybe. So let's say 60 million. I'm going to go for that. I always undershoot, so I'm going to say 60 million.
So you recognise that 50 million would be a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then you go higher.
Well, I just thought when I said 20 times its budget back, I actually thought, actually, maybe that isn't so unrealistic. How unrealistic?
I'm sure you can appreciate $2.5 million for a movie was probably quite a lot back in 1961. So if we do the inflation thing, I don't know, if it's costing like 100 million. In today's money.
Let's see, that would be like it making
2 billion.
Okay, you know what, Luke? You know what, Luke? I wasn't thinking about it right. You're right. It probably made more like 20 million.
14.
Yeah, okay.
14. So quite a bit less.
Yeah,
but
when you gave me that modern day analogy, suddenly it all came into place.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you could have just thought about that for like 3 seconds.
Sometimes I need you to think about things for me, Luke.
Okay, well that's the budget and the box office for Breakfast at Tiffany's. And now, Michael, can you tell me whether you liked this movie?
You know, I have kind of mixed feelings. I think overall, I would say I'm torn between saying I liked it and saying I thought it was just kind of fine. So I'm somewhere in between fine and I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's fine. And I don't want to say, to be honest, I don't want to say like, oh, it's fine for like a classic Hollywood movie, because there's some classic Hollywood movies that are really, really good, and this isn't it. This is it's a romantic comedy first and foremost, and you know, I think we've said before, romantic comedies aren't something that we enjoy particularly a lot compared to the type of people who do enjoy romantic comedies. You know, there's quite a big gap there. So, you know, if you think about it, Breakfast at Tiffany's, it was just like the what women want of its day, really. I think that's one of the last romantic comedies we reviewed. So yeah, it would make sense that it's not amazing. Like, it's a classic movie, but you know, I mean, it's classic not because it's a good movie, I guess. That's what I'll say. So yeah, it's fine. It's all right. And yeah, Michael, I think we should go through our nitpicks now. How many do you have?
I've just got one, actually.
Okay, I've got one as well. But I've also got 2 lit picks.
Okay, I've got nothing other than just the one. So
you go first.
Yeah, it's actually, and it's a really tame one. Just I don't think Mickey Rooney would hear somebody falling on the floor below him. I think it's like weird because she falls over and it's bang and it's like ow, and that would make sense if he was on the apartment beneath them, but he's on the apartment above them.
Maybe it's an old Japanese stereotype that they can hear
things very well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's it. You know, you got those stereotypes back in the day which just which have just fallen out of favour in modern days.
Yeah, but in other ways, this film consistently avoids those stereotypes. So I think I'm going to say that that's probably not the case.
Okay, good point, actually, good point. Yeah, my one nitpick is, right, this girl who, what's she called again? She's called Holly Golightly. What a great name. She's having money troubles, of course, but she lives in an incredibly, here's the thing, it's a nice apartment in Manhattan, right? It's not incredibly nice, but it's just a decent apartment in Manhattan. I don't know. I feel like that would be very expensive. Now, of course, I know New York real estate has boomed since the 1960s and everything is so much more expensive in cities, but I'm thinking surely you don't have to literally live in Manhattan. You can like live, I don't know. I mean, she could probably find a much cheaper place in, Brooklyn or Queens or even Staten Island. I don't know. But just basically I mean, if her money is her primary concern, I don't know, it feels like she doesn't have to live in an apartment in Manhattan. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was just a little difference back in the 60s, but I don't know. I don't feel like that would be the case. Anyway, Michael, my lit pick. Okay, so do you remember the Audrey Hepburn Galaxy advert?
No.
No, you don't remember that?
Yeah, no idea.
Because so there's this advert from the chocolate bar Galaxy where she takes a piece of Galaxy, she like pats a driver on her head, and like it's a digitally imposed face of Audrey Hepburn. Like it was like a few years ago.
You know what, Luke? Actually, I just looked it up, and yes, I do remember it now. I've seen it, and I'm not gonna lie to you. When you first said it, I thought you were talking about Samsung Galaxy, not Galaxy the chocolate bar. So as soon as you said Galaxy the chocolate bar, I was like, oh wait, and then I looked it up, and yeah, I do remember it. But yeah, tell me about it.
And well, just the song Moon River plays in it. There's a moon river wider than a mile, and she eats the galaxy. And I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this song before when I watched it for the first time. That was in that Galaxy advert.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd love to see it. And okay, I don't know about this lit pick, Michael. I don't know. You
just really like the racism. Like, I don't know about this one. It's a bit unconventional, but
okay. So Breakfast at Tiffany's. I don't know whether I was what I was thinking when I put this down, but it sounds like a football chant. Right? You mean
like breakfast at Tiffany's?
Yeah, exactly.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
It fits so perfectly. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Yeah, it just works, and I don't know why, but it does. So that's what I thought of.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that, I guess, for any five syllable thing. Oh wait, no, sorry, 6 syllables. God, I'm stupid.
Yeah, but it ends with the E.
Yeah, that's an E.
And it starts with the it's like breakfast at Tiffany's. It just fits so well, I think. I don't know. I don't know really what I was thinking, but that's what I That's what I came up with as a little
Beautiful. Good one.
Okay, so let's go through, I guess, the background to Breakfast at Tiffany's. It is about a woman called Holly Golightly, just an insanely great name, a naive, eccentric Cathay society girl who falls in love with a struggling writer, George Peppard, who, of course, plays Paul Valjac. There we go, nailed it. And yeah, basically, this movie, of course, as we said before, it's a classic. I mean, that's why we are reviewing it. The film received 5 nominations at the 34th Academy Awards for Best Actress for Audrey Hepburn, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Production Design, and it won Best Original Score and Best Original Song for Moon River. Is it wider than the Nile or wider than a mile?
It's wider than a mile, don't worry.
Because the Nile isn't that long.
Yeah, the thing is, I thought they weren't going to do Moon River, but then, wow, second encore. Do you know what that's from?
No.
It's from the Simpsons episode where they go to Branson, Missouri, and Nelson's with them, and he's like, Andy Williams! and then they watch him, and he's singing Moon River, and Nelson's just watching with love in his eyes how enchanting Andy Williams is.
Yeah, and
it's a good song.
And there's another Simpsons reference, once again.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, Mickey Rooney also appears in a Simpsons episode, doesn't he? But he's not Japanese in that episode, unfortunately.
Yeah, he also appears in Family Guy, where he takes Mickey Rooney's crazy pills.
Okay. The film is considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the US Library of Congress and was selected to be preserved in the National Film Registry in 2012. So quite late, actually, only 2012 for that. And yeah, we are going to get into this movie now. Obviously, first, I guess why this movie is famous, why this movie is a classic, is because of Audrey Hepburn, one of the most famous actresses of all time. Yeah, probably. I'm guessing. She was third on the AFI's top 100 or top 50, whatever it was, actresses from Hollywood's golden age, losing out to I can't remember who was second, but obviously
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, no, Marilyn Monroe. I saw the list. She was 7th.
Okay, yeah.
Catherine Hepburn was number 1. And
oh yeah.
I can't remember who was second, but yeah, Catherine Hepburn. I mean, imagine that. The surname Hepburn isn't that common, yet 2 of the top 3 actresses in Hollywood's golden age last names were Hepburn. What are the odds, Michael? What are the odds of that?
Suspicious.
I mean, I wouldn't say that really.
Coincidence? I think not.
But yeah, obviously, this role of Holly Golightly is generally considered, as from Wikipedia, to be one of Audrey Hepburn's most memorable and identifiable roles. She regarded it as one of her most challenging roles. Why did she regard it as one of her most challenging roles, Michael?
Oh, I don't know. I was trying to think of something snarky or funny or something, but yeah, I have no idea. Why did she?
Well, you're gonna absolutely love the reason. I laughed when I saw this. Okay, since she was an introvert, required to play an extrovert.
Wow.
That's why she sounded, because she wasn't like the character, you see. So that's why it was such a challenge. That's the third greatest actress of Hollywood's golden age, baby.
Yeah. It was difficult because the character wasn't like me.
Yeah, see, I don't normally do the things the character does, so that's why, as an actress, that was challenging for me. Christ, things were so bad back in the day. I mean, her performance isn't bad, but it's just imagine you said that today. God, you'd get fucking ripped apart, as you should. Literally, that's your job. That's your job, to play people who are different to you. And you found it a challenge. One of her most challenging roles. Or the highest. Okay. So, after absolutely eviscerating Audrey Hepburn, let's talk about her in the actual movie, Michael. So, obviously she's glamorous and beautiful, attractive. Quite easy to see why she became an icon.
Incandescent.
Sorry?
Incandescent.
Oh yes, of course, that as well. So what were your impressions of her in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, so I thought, like I say, she is kind of classic, but I do think you already mentioned the acting, or implied thing about the acting. I do think that a lot of her character comes across as kind of, the best analogy I can think of is, and I think I've heard people say a good way of telling whether or not someone's a bad actor is watching them try and play somebody who's drunk. And I think in this case, it's she does kind of act like she's drunk all the time. She's very lethargic and very kind of overly melodramatic about everything, and it does come across as kind of like it's an issue because it comes across almost like overacting, but then maybe it's that like her character is kind of over dramatic and lethargic about everything. But she's kind
Well, what do you say when she? What do you mean when she's drunk? Do you mean like she acts like she's drunk?
Yeah. I mean, like, so it's kind of like when she wakes up in the morning, she's kind of like she seems almost like a kind of college stoner. Like answers the door, and it's like I can't remember the exact thing, but like first of all she's got like her earplugs in, she's like, oh yeah, I've got my fucking my phone's in a bloody drawer, so I can't hear it. Because it's always I'm always wake up with a hangover and my dealer's always bugging me. That's kind of the impression she gives.
Yeah, if she'd born like 30 years later, that's what she'd be like. Yeah, for sure.
Generation X.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'll get into basically the backstory to her character, or the influence that she had. Audrey Hepburn in her role. Hepburn as Holly Golightly with her hair in a high, oh my god, chignon. Is that French or is it chignon? I have to think.
I think when in doubt, make it sound more fancy. It's better to overcorrect than to look like a pleb.
The word chignon comes from the French phrase chignon du cou, which means nape of the neck. Okay, there you go. So nailed it. She had her hair in a high chignon and carrying an oversized cigarette holder. It's considered one of the most iconic images of 20th century American cinema. Yes, I can see that. Yeah.
Right up there with Cruella de Vil.
Yeah. Another iconic item throughout the movie is Holly's sunglasses, often misidentified as Ray-Ban. They are Manhattan sunglasses designed and manufactured in London by Oliver Goldsmith. In 2011, the model was re-released to mark the 50th anniversary of Breakfast at Tiffany's. And basically there's a lot of dresses. It goes into here that that get sold for like what, $467,000 in December 2006. Wow. And the little black dress worn by Hepburn in the beginning of the film is cited as one of the most iconic items of clothing in the history of the 20th century, and is perhaps the most famous little black dress of all time. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean,
whoa.
Yeah, this is quite. I mean, I don't know. I don't know really the history of little black dresses. And how iconic they are. I don't know. It just feels like it's just a normal dress. So, oh god, right, okay. So, also, Michael, you'll like this because, of course, we talked a bit about Zack Snyder and the Batman and the Justice League earlier in the cold open. The dress was paid homage as one of the dresses worn by Anne Hathaway character Selina Kyle, Catwoman's alter ego in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises. Wonder if Zack Snyder would like to reprise that if he got a fucking chance at Justice League. Sadly, he didn't get that chance, did he? The comic book, or movies after Justice League, sorry. The comic book Catwoman, drawn by artist Adam Hughes, was based on Hepburn, creating a double homage to Hepburn's Holly Golightly in Hathaway's Catwoman. So there you are. Even influencing the DC universe. So yeah, Michael. I mean, look, I'm not really into fashion that much, and I don't. You're not either, right?
No.
So I guess this is interesting if you care about it, but. Yeah, I mean, look, it's like, I mean, everyone, I think probably everyone, even if they hadn't heard of Audrey Hepburn, would kind of recognise her. Or no, everyone's probably heard of Audrey Hepburn, but they would recognise, like, who she is. And yeah, I'm sure, here's the thing, like, this is why, talking overall about the movie, this is why I'm, like, a bit frustrated with it, is because it's like, the movie isn't that good, and I think it's just, like, quote unquote iconic because she looks good in that dress, like, and her hair looks good like that, and so therefore it's iconic. Like, normally I like if someone looks good in an actual scene, and the scene is part of like a good movie, you know what I mean? But this just feels pretty drab, kind of a movie to have like one of the most iconic images of North American film. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, this film, it doesn't really have much of a, I guess ironically, it doesn't have much of a character to it, which is, of course, funny because it features an iconic character. But basically, a lot of the stuff in this film just kind of feels a bit hollow, and is kind of like, I think maybe in a way I almost wonder if like that's why Audrey Hepburn is so well regarded, because it's kind of like, Audrey Hepburn is the main thing that leaves an impression in this film. Like, everything else, you're kind of just like, oh, whatever,
Yeah,
nothing else kind of, yeah.
she's the star attraction, isn't she? I mean, that's why we're talking about her first. It's because literally I was like, well, I mean, that the main reason why this movie is what it is because of Audrey Hepburn. And I'm saying, that's fine and all. It's just a shame that that's the reason. It's not because the movie she was in was great. Because the actual movie just isn't that amazing. But of course, like I said, Audrey Hepburn is, she's incredibly glamorous. Imagine all the crazy things guys in the 1960s were saying about Audrey Hepburn, Michael. Imagine,
yeah.
I'd kiss her goodnight.
Yeah, if they'd invented masturbation back then, oh boy.
Okay. Also, just this is from the New York Times. Breakfast at Tiffany's set Hepburn on her 1960s Hollywood course. Holly Golightly, the small southern town girl turned Manhattan trickster, was the naughty American cousin of Eliza Doolittle, the Cockney flower girl turned... What, Michael? What Eliza Doolittle?
Well, My Fair Lady. I mean, I don't know what the term would be. Like, I know what film you're talking about.
That was the phrase, yes.
Yes.
Turned My Fair Lady. Yeah, I was thinking that one. This is like, there is an air of My Fair Lady about it. Because her agent talks... We don't actually see her, change from
yeah, that's actually funny, isn't it?
Southern Girl to Manhattan Trickster. She just is that throughout the movie, but yeah, her agent mentions that. Maybe they didn't want to do that too much because then it would be like, oh, you're just copying My Fair Lady, which incidentally I think she appeared in 1964, just 3 years later. So
they probably wouldn't have been accused of copying my... Oh, okay, yeah, because yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Or was it a play or a novel? I don't know.
I think it was a play.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into... Well, you got anything else to say on Audrey Hepburn?
No, that's fine.
That's it? Okay. Right, well, let's get into the plot then.
Yes.
So, Audrey Hepburn, she starts off avoiding a guy who has stalked her home. That's the first... No, obviously, what she does actually first, she just visits Tiffany's in the morning. I'm guessing it's the morning. And she's just, like, looking at, like, all the nice jewellery in there, and she's like, oh, I wish I was in there, but I'm not. That apparently, that's... another iconic thing. So many iconic things in this movie. And after that, we have her meet her love interest for the movie. What's he called, Michael? Can you remember? I can. Can you?
Ben. That's not bad.
Can you remember one of the two names? Audrey.
Sorry, Paul and Fred.
Yes.
The minute you mentioned there were two names, I suddenly remembered it. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember which one is which?
So isn't like Paul is his real name, Fred's the fake name?
Correct. Well done.
Yes.
It's almost like you watched this movie. Well done.
Yeah.
Paul,
every
Paul
other time I haven't actually watched the movie, and that's why I'm so bad at names. This one time is the only time I've watched the movie.
Okay, so yeah, and at first I was looking at this, I was like, oh god, this is the most cliche thing. You've got this, I guess, wild at heart. I mean, she says that a few times. That's how she describes herself, like kind of, I mean, very eccentric girl. And in walks this cool, calm, collected man, who's got nice hair. He's all buttoned up, and I'm thinking, oh god, this is the most cliche thing ever, like this girl who's like ditzy, and this man, who's like, it's very strong and kind of silent, and that's how their relationship works because they're like opposites, but therefore they work together. They need each other, kind of thing. But then, Michael, I liked the direction it went after because you find out
because he's a gigolo.
Paul is actually a gigolo. Wow, what a twist. And I was like, of course, this had to be a novel because no way a screenwriter in Hollywood at that time would write that in. But yeah, of course, it was a Truman Capote. But instantly he seems, I guess, more vulnerable. I don't know that he's a gigolo, and also his character works so much better now. And he's a writer as well. That helps, I think. Give him a more worldly feeling. Rather than just the strong silent type. But yeah, no, it's like he's a gigolo. I like that twist a lot. I will give the movie, well, I guess Truman Capote who wrote the book, but whatever. It's like, I do like that twist. Yeah, and I take it you do as well. Yeah,
I agree with you, and it does come across as I think it's definitely true that and I agree with you that there is kind of a standard, and I guess you could say it's very kind of 50s and also 60s like sexist idea of like the woman being the kind of irrational, hysterical, wild. It's almost like a manic pixie dream girl thing. Of course, that term wouldn't be coined till much later.
No, and then obviously, I'm not kidding. I have to intervene here. Wrote down I'm just going to bring it up later. Is Audrey Hepburn the OG manic pixie dream girl?
Wow.
But I don't know. I was going to conclude by saying I don't know because I haven't watched enough movies from that era, and this may just be not that. I mean, she clearly is over the top, but how over the top is she actually? And also, like, she's she's the main character rather than being, the male being the main character and finding Audrey Hepburn. It's the other way around. So yeah, I'm gonna say probably not on that front. But go on.
Yeah, anyway, basically, and then obviously the man is like the kind of stern, rational person who, knows what's what and puts her in line, I guess. And that's the thing, yeah, I haven't seen too many films from this era either. I've seen a lot of kind of musical romances. I know this does have like a musical element to it, but I mean like, proper musicals like An American in Paris and that kind of stuff. And I've actually seen My Fair Lady too. But yeah, as far as this film goes, I mean, yeah, it was, I was expecting something a bit more conventional in terms of, I guess, the gender roles. And yeah, it is refreshing that, I mean, there still is kind of that element of he still is, definitely that stoic type who's, very sensible, and he has that line about, I can help her. But
he has
it's
that
true
layer
that,
of vulnerability.
He has a chink in his armor, as it were, his armor of invulnerability.
Yes. Yeah, he's not just like, the thing is, if he was a writer, it'd be like, okay, that's better, I guess, than being, I don't know, working at a fucking, I don't know, as a lawyer, I guess, something like that.
Yeah.
But
probably a private detective. Everyone worked as a private detective back in the 60s.
Yeah, but no, the fact that he's a writer is okay, but yeah, the fact that he's a gigolo, that's great. That really opens him up, and it's like, literally, that really opens him up. It's like, oh, okay, this character it's more complicated than it seems. And I instantly, when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, that's so much better than what I was fearing. So that's great. So yeah, very very nice twist from again Truman Capote, who wrote this book, or the book the movie was based on.
Truman Capote, who wrote it.
Yes. Anyway, so then we get this amazing scene. I love this scene so much. So Audrey Hepburn climbed into his window at night, obviously, and then basically mocks him for being a gigolo, kind of. And then she falls asleep like in his arms, and then she's obviously having a bad dream about her brother Fred. He's mentally challenged apparently, and then she's talking in her sleep, and Paul wakes her up. He's like, hey, what's going on here? Are you okay? Are you all right? What were you dreaming about? And then she runs to the window, and she says, like, what was it? I don't like snoops. And
yeah,
I laugh so much. Like, the camera pans back to him, and he's just staring at the window, like, what the fuck are you fucking crazy bitch?
That's kind of like. That's like a classic kind of old-timey like thing where like a character just says something like kind of cryptic.
Yeah.
Just like, now see here, let's get one thing clear right away. I don't like snoops.
Yeah, but of course, like I laughed because of the camera pan, and I know he's probably not thinking, or the director doesn't want you to think, what a crazy bitch. So are we not gonna fuck then? I thought we were. Okay, you're leaving. Right, but no, that's the thing. He's not thinking that. Obviously, you're not meant to think he's thinking that. But yeah, I just funny to imagine that. And also, of course, like the irony of her saying, let's get one thing straight. I don't like snoops. When she's walked, or she's climbed into his bedroom, and has just decided to fall asleep right next to him in her bed, and has started talking to him in her dream, and saying that, and just the all around that combination makes that scene. I found that scene quite.
Well, let's get one thing clear. When I sneak into your room and fall asleep next to you and start talking in my sleep, I don't want to have to give an account of why I was having those thoughts.
If you don't like Snoop, then go and sleep in your own fucking bed then. That's just what I would have said. And I think that would have played very well back in the 60s. Right, so then we have this party at Audrey Hepburn's apartment. Her agent, do you remember, Michael, the agent telling her the story about how he discovered her and how he trained her?
Yeah.
And do you remember also in the background, a white guy and an Asian woman just stand behind them as the agent is having a conversation with Paul?
No.
Well, here's the thing. So they start the conversation, and they're talking to each other, and he was saying, yeah, she was the Southern girl. She couldn't speak for shit, and then I turned her into what she's now. And then this guy and this white guy, Asian woman, they just come into the background like halfway through the conversation, and they're not talking, and they look towards Paul and Audrey Hepburn's agent, and they're just staring at them, and I'm thinking like, okay, they've got to have a role in this scene, because that's just such a weird thing to do. They've got to be in this conversation somehow. But no, then it just fades to then it just fades out, and we go on to another section of the party. And the thing is, I'm surprised you didn't catch that, because that's something that I noticed. I was like, it's too noticeable not to notice it. But clearly, you weren't paying attention properly, Michael. Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To be honest, I do feel very bad. I mean, see, though, actually, it's funny because you mentioned the party, and I will say up front, the party was a moment where I was thinking, what the hell is this? Because like I said, this film feels a bit like aimless. And the thing is, yeah, like with some of the stuff, it is interesting. But with the party, the first, admittedly, it didn't feel as long the second time I watched it because I wasn't paying attention. No, but the first time I watched it, I felt like this party feels like it's been going on for ages, and it kind of feels. Rooney. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, but that's the thing. I mean, obviously, the thing is, it does have a purpose because, of course, it sets up two characters who become important later on. The guy who's the richest under 50-year-old is, I can't remember exactly what the ranking is, but that guy, yeah, ninth. And then obviously it sets up the Brazilian guy, but at the same time, it does just feel like, and I think. It reminds me of something, because I said, actually, this was good foreshadowing on my part. I said that I'd watched quite a few romantic musicals from this period, and mostly because a lot of them won Best Picture. Back in the day, if you made like a romantic musical, it was guaranteed to win Best Picture. And I've been trying to watch all the Best Pictures because I was like, well, I probably should, because the Oscars is always right about what's the Best Picture. Anyway, one of the things I noticed, though, is that nowadays, I'd say it's quite a common standard to have it so your musical numbers should advance the plot. Like, obviously, that's what the classic Disney films do and things like that. But what I realized is that in the olden days, like back in the 50s and 60s, there was very little expectation of that. It's almost like, like nowadays you'll have like just one musical, like one musical number in a musical that will just have no point other than pure spectacle. In the 50s and 60s, in a lot of films, they were just all like that. Like the plot would just stop so that every single person could dance and sing, and nothing would actually be achieved. It would just be complete pure spectacle. And I think that this party was like kind of what's that word for a vestigial element of that, because it wasn't, obviously this film wasn't a musical, but I think that they were like, well, it's a romantic comedy in the 50s and 60s, or in the 60s, so we've got to have a random scene where nothing really happens except for a bunch of people just hang out and dance while music plays. That's my genuine theory about why it happened, because I was just thinking, what's the point in this? And yeah, so maybe that's why I didn't notice the random people, because I was just sat there thinking, I don't really get why we're just holding on this party where very little is happening plot-wise or relationship-wise, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty accurate thing that you just said. I mean, like I said before, I haven't really seen a lot of 1950s or 1960s movies, so I'm not really sure how. But I mean, considering what you said, that makes sense. That they just have these kind of. Or especially when musicals are happening, these kind of random songs, and yeah, this party did feel kind of like that. I mean, this whole movie, I wouldn't be surprised if the actual plot wasn't, or I would be surprised if the plot wasn't typical of the movies back in the day. And yeah, like this party just felt, like you said, kind of aimless, and like the movie kind of feels like that as well. So yeah, that isn't that surprising. I mean, look, you have that guy who was the Brazilian guy who wanted to observe North American culture, the wealthy guy who liked Eminem with the hair. That was the ninth richest guy under 50. And then you had the woman laughing and then crying at herself while looking in the mirror. And you remember that bit, right? She's laughing at herself and she's crying. Again, the thing is, the two previous characters I mentioned, they return. But that woman laughing in the mirror, she doesn't return. We never get to see her again, unfortunately. And yeah, like that's just I guess, a scene. It's a scene, and then it's over. And I guess it sets up two characters that we'll see more of later. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, there you go. That's the party scene, done and dusted. Wasn't that fun? And then we move on, and then more stuff happens, of course, and we have this guy who's introduced to us, who follows Paul. And we find out that he is not actually spying on Paul and that old woman who is called E2. He's not a spy for her husband who wants to see if they're having an affair. No, he's actually Audrey Hepburn's husband, and she just ran off to Manhattan from Texas, and she is called Lula May and not Holly Golightly. She's called Lula May Golightly, and Michael, do you want to? Look.
Yeah. It's interesting because, again, this falls into another example of the second time I watched it, I was surprised. It's shocking when, having already seen the film and seen how it plays out, when you go to the halfway point and that guy just leaves,
Yes.
and he never comes back again.
It's like a 15-minute thing at most.
Yeah.
He's just there. Oh, it's a problem for Holly. Oh, is she gonna have to go back to Texas? No, it's okay. She's fine. So yeah, it's okay. That's another, I guess, problem that has been diverted, and we can get back to the plot, which is just her just living her life, I guess. But a crucial detail, Michael. A crucial detail is this guy married Audrey Hepburn's character when she was 14 years old.
Yes.
And he would have been in his mid-30s. I like how Paul just doesn't react to this either. Like he just takes it in his stride. Oh yeah, she was 14 and I married her when he was he was like 35. And also he says I'll help you get back together too. Even though, this guy says, well, I don't know why she ran away. Like he believes her. Oh, sorry, he believes him. Like, oh, that she just ran away randomly.
Yeah.
She's this 14-year-old girl I married. I don't know, Paul. I feel like you should be, as a writer, you should be kind of,
a bit more skeptical, a bit more wise.
Not as naive as, it turns out he's telling the truth about, she just ran away randomly, apparently. But, I don't know if I'd believe that, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And also, actually, I will say it was a weird strategy to wait until they get to the bus station for her to tell him that she's leaving. I guess it was so that he'd, have less time to stick around and change her mind. But I was thinking it's weird how she's like, oh, can you come to the bus station with me? He thinks I'm coming with him.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing. She was being very smart. She's very cunning, isn't she? And a real trickster move. So he just gets on the bus, like you say, and we never see him again. And there you go. That's that section of the movie wrapped up in a nice little package. But he does tell her the news that her brother Fred will be getting out of the army in just 4 months' time. And so then, because of that, I guess, she decides that she is going to have to find a husband who's very rich. And, she is going to try and marry the richest guy she can get her hands on. And, of course, it's the Eminem guy, the richest 50, was the 9th richest man under 50. Well, then, he turns out that he's broke, so and of course he's marrying someone else, so a bullet is dodged there. Or was it that he's marrying? What was the news that he's marrying someone else?
So it was weird actually. It was it felt a bit like overkill. He was marrying someone else, but I think the reason he was marrying someone else is because he was marrying into money because he was in debt.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So she's not going to marry him now, and then. She turns out she's gonna marry. No. First. What we have is she spends a day with Paul. Again, it's just kind of like a random thing that. Oh, we're together today. Why don't we just? Okay, they're celebrating because he's got something published in the New Yorker or something. So we're just gonna have this day where we celebrate. We go to Tiffany's. We get that little ring engraved, and then we go to the public library. And we're going to make a nuisance of ourselves just because it's very etc. And then and then we're going to go back to the house and probably sleep together. Who knows? Probably. He's a gigolo, so he's used to that kind of thing. He'd be fine with doing that. And then so you think, oh, they're going to be together. Finally, this, I don't know. It feels like you wait like an hour and a half for them to actually get together properly in the movie, and then all of a sudden, oh no, she's actually going to marry for money instead. She's going to marry Jose Carlos or whatever he's called, the Brazilian guy, she gets busted by the narcotics police for carrying coded messages for Sally Tomato, the mafia guy. I love it. Obviously, the mafia was around in the 60s. I knew that going in, but it's just funny to see like the mafia being like plot points. Oh yeah, this mafia guy's in jail. You don't get that a lot nowadays, do you? But yeah.
No, yeah, in romantic comedies.
Yeah, anything to say on any of that, Michael?
Yeah, basically, I pretty much agree with you. I think it's kind of getting into the romance element. Although actually, I think that kind of makes sense because we're basically almost done with the plot. So I'll just say, it falls into that. Like I will say, I did like the idea of let's do a day of doing things we've never done before. But it felt a bit weird. And it was like kind of a half montage in a way that made it feel like, because they just did like 3 things, and it was like set up like, let's spend the day doing things we've never done before. And I feel like the kind of maybe more intelligent thing to do from a filmmaking perspective would be to have like kind of a reasonably quick fire montage of them doing things they've never done before. Because I think that's like a clever premise. Like it's kind of like a cute date idea. Like, oh, let's have a day of, doing things for the first time. Like that's cute and, a clever date idea. But you'd think it would be a good opportunity to have them be like, oh, I've never done this thing. And then she go, oh, you've never done this thing? And then they go to do the thing and then they like smile and like, huh. And, it would like show them more substantially falling in love. As things stand, it's kind of like awkwardly paced. Because like I say, it's like they only do 3 things, I think.
Yeah.
Or is it?
They do 3 things and 2 of them last for like a minute. Where they go check out a book and then they go and they steal some masks from this department store.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's over with.
Yeah. So
what a great day.
Yeah, but then I definitely agree with you that it's weird how just like there's just a sudden pivot to now she's just going on, and it almost makes it feel like
something else should happen.
She wasn't interested in him at all.
Exactly. Yeah, something else should happen. She should start having this relationship with this guy, and then maybe I don't know, she gets some more news about Fred. I don't know, something that makes her think once more. I got to get a rich guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would make sense, because that's the thing. Like, I feel like with, again, and this is based on my admittedly limited experience, but it's also based on just my an assumption I'm going to make about kind of the attitude towards women at the time. I feel like a lot of films, and I think this continues even maybe to today, but a lot of films definitely in the past were the idea was that a lot of the time any problems in the romance, any kind of roadblocks in the romance, were just like attributed to women arbitrarily deciding things. Mm-hmm. So it's just like on a whim, just like a woman being like, actually, I've decided I don't want to date you anymore. I'm going to go and run off.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, that's how women work.
Women are just crazy like that,
Yeah, you just can't deal with them. That's why you need to, subject them to the power of patriarchy. Otherwise, they'll just go running off, gallivanting around, ruining the structure of your romantic comedy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you need a man to take control of the situation, which is what Paul eventually does, of course, and that's what leads to the happy ending. And let's get on to the ending now, I guess, Michael. So, Holly is released on bail, and I want to read this from Wikipedia because I think it's quite insightful in terms of like how I feel or how Wikipedia write the ending to the movie. It's a good insight into how not well done it is. So Paul is waiting for her in a cab, bringing her cat and letter from Jose, explaining that he must end their relationship due to her arrest. Holly insists that she will go to Brazil anyway. She asks the cab to pull over and releases the cat into the pouring rain. Paul then storms out of the cab, tossing the engraved ring into her lap and telling her to examine her life. She goes... this is the phrase I like. She goes through a decision-making moment, puts on the ring and runs after Paul. She goes through a decision-making moment.
Yes.
I mean, that's as good a summary of what happens as... Yeah, it's like this extremely cliche moment where Paul gives her what's what, and she's like, yeah, you know what, I am going to run after her. She's been told some hard truths, and in this decision-making moment, she decides to make the decision to go after Paul. And very classic old Hollywood ending. But the fact that the phrase kind of outlines it pretty well. It's like, yes, this is a moment that happens in these kind of movies, and right at the end, and she makes the right choice, and we can all live happily ever after that decision has been made. And there you have it. Yeah.
No, I will say actually, just slightly independent of that, an example of how I had some confidence in the film actually, because I was thinking about this. I was really sure at the end, when they were looking for the cat, Paul was going to whistle, because like the first time they meet, she whistles for a taxi, and he says, "Oh, I never learned how to do that." And I was like so sure when they were looking for the cat, they were going to be looking like, "Oh, where's the cat?" And then Paul was going to go and whistle. I can't do it either. And then she looked and she go, oh, you learned to whistle. I just thought that was going to happen, just like as a nice little bit of reincorporation, a way to kind of attach the time that they first met to this moment. And that didn't happen. I was disappointed in that. But the other thing is, it's just like, I think one of my, because there are romantic comedies that I quite like, although I feel like a lot of them are so kind of against the conventions of romantic comedies that they barely even qualify, because the two things I dislike, and it's annoying because they tend to be very common in romantic comedies, is basically one, a situation where, and it's kind of like a similar thing, but one, you don't really see the characters in a relationship throughout the entirety of the film, usually because there's kind of like a will they won't they thing going on. And then two, and like I said, this is related, but I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, actually. I shouldn't have said two different things. It's just one thing that's two parts. And then the second thing is obviously the fact that at the end of the film is the first time they're like, yes, let's get in a relationship. And you're just like, but I don't really have any reason to be invested in you two getting in a relationship, because I don't like have any idea of what your relationship would actually be like. Because that's the thing. I mean, she kind of seems like I say, she almost seems like she barely even considers the possibility of dating him realistically. Obviously, she just kind of casually goes away to Brazil without any kind of apparent like inner turmoil. She's not like, oh no, I really like him, but I need to, get money. Instead, she's like, yeah, well, I'm just going to go to Brazil. Why not? It's like she doesn't seem to care. And then
you are completely
he's basically,
right. It feels like, let's talk about her first. It feels like that she settles for him. I mean, because, she can't get the rich Brazilian guy who she really likes. She says he's not a rat or even a super rat. He's perfect almost, I guess. And yeah, of course, they have some good times together, but she clearly doesn't think that Paul is a rat or even a super rat. But yeah, it is like, okay, well, what, I tried to marry the rich guy, the M&M guy. I tried to marry the Brazilian guy, it didn't work. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna go with you now. Why the hell not? Got nothing else. Yeah, and she never says, yeah, I love you, or you never get the sense that she's actually in love with Paul, like any more than anyone else.
Like,
yeah.
Towards the end, I think I remember he's like kind of almost begging her to like, and it's like when you've got like 5 minutes from the end of the film, probably not even 5 minutes from the end of the film, and he's like begging her to be in a relationship with him. It's kind of like, I don't know if I'm that that enthused by the romance on display here.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I guess it's like back in the day, people just thought that all you needed to do was convince a woman to marry you, and that's what romance was.
Like why does she like Paul? Like why? I mean, why?
So I don't know. We need to. We will go to our graves wondering that question.
I'm just like, does he give her any perspective on things? I don't think so. Not really. Like she gets taken to the library by him. That seems like it's it. I don't know. It just seems like they're together. Oh, she likes him because it has to happen for the movie, and also like. And so that's one criticism. And the next criticism is that the fact that Paul, why does he like Audrey Hepburn's character? Now you could just say, oh, she's very glamorous and, she's like a free spirit and, or she's like no girl that he's ever met before, etc. But again, it just seems like, oh, he just hangs around her apartment now and again. And yeah, he spends one day with her, like actually doing stuff. And then he's like, oh, I love you. I don't know. It just feels, again, very, very forced on that end as well. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. Like that's the thing. It just feels like. So I mean, yeah, I think we've pretty much covered it.
From Paul's perspective, though, that's what I'm.
Oh yeah, sorry, from Paul's perspective, sorry, yeah. I do agree. I mean, that's the thing. I kind of put I said that he comes across as a bit of a simp, but I don't know if that's like true. Like basically, just the idea of there's not much about her that he should find interesting. I mean, apart from anything else, like I don't know, so he's like a writer and everything, and it kind of seems like he's becoming a bit more maybe driven towards the end of the film, and that's kind of like his thing. Like he says like he's going to start writing properly and stuff like that, so he's kind of taking charge of his own life. But then well that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like she kind of is almost the contrast to that. She's someone who's still pretty much coasting through life, obviously. Just I mean, it's kind of like,
does she give him,
I mean, actually
the thing is, if she gave him confidence, that would be good. That could work as well.
Yeah.
But she never actually. Well, she reads his stories in the New York or whatever, but of course he's already decided to publish. Like he's already getting money for his stories. Like, does she actually read his book, like 9 Lives or whatever? I don't think. Yeah. I don't think she does, unless I'm missing it. So yeah, I guess again, like the reason why this romance works more than any other and is that much more special, is because like she shows him something more like that he'd never seen before. Basically, as
good rhyme.
Yeah, thank you. And and yeah, that you just don't get that. He's just like, oh yeah, he's just continuing his life. He'd continue his life in the same vein if she left to go to Brazil. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And also, actually, I just realized we haven't pointed this out yet, but there is a parallel. It's kind of funny we didn't point this out. In a way, I kind of just, it's obvious, but I kind of just realized it. Like, obviously, he's a gigolo, and she is effectively a gigolo in that she
gets money for the powder.
She gets money, gets money for, So basically, they've got that thing going on. But I was just thinking about how kind of, so obviously you could say that's obviously a nice parallel and stuff. But at the same time, he kind of makes an independent choice to decide to abandon that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And she just finds herself in a situation where she's sort of passively forced to abandon that lifestyle because she runs out of options, which again kind of just shows how distinct they are as characters and how like it doesn't really make sense that he would want to be with her because
at the end of the movie, I'm going to ask it. I don't know if this is a good way to judge romantic comedies, but could one character live without the other in terms of like not being depressed all the time? Right, if Audrey Hepburn went to live in another part of the world, be it Brazil, be it Los Angeles, could she live happily? I think so. I mean, of course, her brother's Fred's died, but that would be mainly the reason why she'd be sad, and I think so. And that's the thing. When she's with him, she doesn't feel like, she doesn't say, "Oh, I'm like a different person." "Oh, this feels, I've never been happy before." We didn't get any of that. So basically, I'm saying Audrey Hepburn's character feels like, yes, she could live without Paul, and also Paul's character, Paul Valchek, played by who I can't remember the actor's name right now, but yeah, he basically could also probably live without Audrey Hepburn. Like I said, he just continue on in living his life as writing in New York. Like they could, I think they could essentially live without each other and still be like happy to an extent, of course. And so yeah, a romantic comedy, it should, or any romance movie with two characters who fall in love, it should be like at the end of the movie, like, oh, they literally can't live without each other. Like, oh, this is why this romance is so special. And yeah, like we said before, just because how it feels like they're not, they're still kind of independent from each other. That yeah, it doesn't feel like there's a good enough connection, and they could still live their lives just like they had done before if they'd never met each other. And I don't think it's a bad romance, Michael, to quote Lady Gaga. It's a bad romance.
Good one. No, yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary on the romance. So yeah,
and that's what why I don't think I don't really like rom-coms anyway, but at least make the romance feel like it's good. It just feels very flat in this movie. And I guess shall we move on to Mickey Rooney?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that he stars in this film, and I couldn't identify him. He's a real chameleon actor.
He stars as Mr. Uenoshi. Yeah, the I don't know if you caught it, but he's a Japanese character. And
I do remember that character, that little cameo.
Here's the thing: he has his own Wikipedia page. The character in the movie, he has his own Wikipedia page, and of course, normally like side characters in movies don't, but this one does. So. Here we go. I'm going to read from it because, of course, I have to. Uenoshi, or Mr. Uenoshi, is a fictional character in Blake Edwards' 1961 romantic comedy Breakfast at Tiffany's. Adapted from Truman Capote's. Here's the key thing: the character in the film is significantly different from the character as presented in Capote's original novella. And the film version of Mr. Uenoshi, as portrayed by Mickey Rooney, has been the subject of extensive critical commentary and review since its theatrical release, due to its utilization of ethnic stereotypes. Now you mention it, I think so.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and the image they use
of him in the bath. It just, I know. Just one shot of him just looks extremely racist.
Yeah.
In 1961, the New York Times review of the film said that Mickey Rooney's book-toothed myopic Japanese is broadly exotic. But some reviewers of the day did note an issue over the characterization. James Power's review in The Hollywood Reporter stated, Mickey Rooney gives his customary all to the part of a Japanese photographer, but the role is a caricature that will be offensive to many. In Variety, Larry Tubell wrote simply, Mickey Rooney's participation as a much harassed upstairs Japanese photographer adds an unnecessarily incongruous note to the proceedings. I think I got that, incongruous. There we go, nailed it. And Here's the thing, then it cuts to on the Wikipedia page, since 1990. So apparently for 30 years nobody cared about this, but of course 1990, the era of political correctness, people had to start caring about racism, because of damn political correctness. In 1990, the Boston Globe described Rooney's portrayal as an erasable buck-toothed nerd and an offensive ethnic caricature. And also, the portrayal was referenced in the 1993 film Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, as an example of Hollywood's racist attitudes about Asians that the Chinese Bruce Lee's success as a film star would challenge. Specifically, when Lee and his girlfriend Linda Emery watched Breakfast at Tiffany's in the theatre, where, despite laughing at the character, Linda suggests that they leave midway through the picture after she notices that Bruce is upset at Rooney's stereotypical depiction. Yes, I think that's quite a funny story. I mean, obviously it's not funny, but the fact that Bruce Lee saw this depiction. But I don't know why you'd have had a problem with it, because of course Mr. Yunoshi is Japanese and Bruce Lee is Chinese. You see, so that's they're completely different people, right, Michael?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the Japanese fought the Chinese. So if anything, when you think about it, Chinese people should be there cheering. Can't argue with that.
Exactly. More recent characterizations include as an uncomfortable stereotype, painful, misguided, overtly racist, and Orientalist. One of the most egregiously horrific impersonations of an Asian in the history of movies. And a betrayal bordering on offensive that is a double blow to the Asian community. Not only is he fatuous and uncomplimentary, but he is played by a Caucasian actor in heavy makeup. Yes. I think that's the cherry on top. It's not just that it's a racist portrayal. It's played by this white guy, Mickey Rooney. So yeah, that's interesting. But however, Michael, do you want to know about the response that Mickey Rooney had to the criticism? Do you want to know what he said about this?
Oh, actually, I do want to know the response. I'm actually genuinely curious.
So I like how it says, it cuts to in 2008. So in 2008, this is almost 50 years after the release of the movie. In an interview about the film, Mickey Rooney said he was shocked to hear that his role as Yunoshi had been branded racist by several Asian American activists. Okay, firstly, I don't think it was just several Asian American activists. I think it was most Asian American people. And also, he was shocked in the year 2008 that his role has just no one talked to him for the last 50 years. Rooney said he was heartbroken about the criticism.
Oh, wow.
Blake Edwards wanted me to do it because he was a comedy director. They hired me to do this overboard, and we had fun doing it. Never in all the more than 40 years after we have made it, not one complaint. Not one complaint. Every place I've gone in the world, people say, God, you are so funny. Asians and Chinese come up to me and say, Mickey, you are out of this world. Rooney also said that if he had known people would be so offended, I wouldn't have done it. Those that didn't like it, I forgive them, and God bless America. God bless the universe. God bless the Japanese, Chinese, Indians, all of them, and let's have peace. Good on you, Mickey.
Mickey Rooney. What a hero.
God bless the Japanese.
It's beautiful.
The Chinese, all of them. Indians. Who said anything about the Indians? They're quite different to the Chinese and the Japanese. No, I'm not saying don't God bless the Indians. I'm saying Indian people are very different.
We're all very concerned that you.
Indian people are very different in their culture and the way they look.
Well, you know what? I will admit, I'm not sure if he's talking about Native Americans or. See, he could be saying Indians, that kind of Indians.
Oh, I see. Oh, God, yeah. See, there you go.
Which, I mean, to be fair, because that would make more sense of in kind of the context of American
I think
portrayals.
You're right. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, but obviously they don't well, I mean, actually, I've heard some of them don't mind being called Indian. It's like a debate. But anyway, whatever.
I think I've said before. It's just incredibly stupid how they're called Indians. Just sums up white people's, I guess, inherent arrogance concerning the world more than anything.
Yeah, I feel like. I don't know. I feel like I remember you mentioned maybe we both saw a similar thing about it, or maybe you came up with this idea and then some other. But I remember seeing somebody who basically said like a Native American activist come out and say, "Yeah, I like being called an Indian because it reminds me how stupid white people are."
He's right. He's absolutely right. he's no word of a lie. White people are dumb, and especially the people who call Native American people Indians. It's just the most fucking stupid thing ever. And like I said before, I think I mentioned that I've got some deja vu, like the fact that the Caribbean cricket team is called the West Indies. It's just so fucking dumb. But anyway, Michael. So do you agree that were you also shocked that people had a problem with Mickey Rooney's performance of Mr. Yunoshi, like Mickey Rooney?
Yeah.
Were you shocked by that? Were you heartbroken?
It's an interesting one because I mean, there's so many different threads. On the one hand, when he says at first when he said he was heartbroken. I can think of it kind of makes me think about when George Bush came out and said that being told that he didn't care about black people, or having it said he didn't care about black people by Kanye West, was the worst moment of his presidency. In terms of it being obviously a way of so initially I was thinking he'd say, he's heartbroken to know that it has caused so much hurt. But it seems like he's heartbroken because he's heartbroken because his beloved character is his favorite character he's ever played has been viewed negatively. That seems to be what it is, which is crazy. And it's also just I don't know the debate really should be over. I guess one, I mean maybe could you excuse it for the time, and two, can you kind of compartmentalize and not really judge the film for this thing and just be whatever. Not should we, in 2008, be wondering whether or not it really was a racist caricature? Because yeah, it obviously was. I mean, I can understand. Like, I assume Mickey Rooney obviously. Like, I guess the logic is he's thinking
he's
to
dead
himself.
now, so he's
well,
not.
I didn't. Yeah, so yeah, he was thinking to himself. I didn't do it to be hateful, and I didn't do it to hurt anyone. I did it. He said we had fun. So it was just like, for me, it was just a fun thing to do. It wasn't, how can it be racist? Because racism is hate. Racism is a horrible thing. Whereas we were having a fun time.
Yeah.
We were laughing. So yeah, I guess that's probably his logic. Like, it's not racist because it wasn't explicitly intended as hateful.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about this character, and I mean, look, right at the start of the movie. See, here's the thing. I knew about this. You said you'd forgotten about it.
Yeah, like, the thing is, obviously the first time I watched it, yeah, like, just when he appeared, and I was like, oh, it's this film.
Yes. Well, that's great, because here's the thing. Like, at the start, I knew what this was going in. Yeah, I watching it the first time, I knew this character was in it. I was prepared for it. And obviously, in the opening credits, you see Mickey Rooney as Mr. Yuinoshi in, like, big bold letters right at the start. I'm like, oh, you can't hide this, can you? It's right there. Mickey Rooney is playing this offensive Japanese character. And then literally in the first 4 minutes, he appears. Like, it hits you, like, right at the start. I mean, you just got to love, the past and, the 1960s. A beautiful, classic romantic comedy in Hollywood's golden age. And immediately we get an offensive portrayal of an ethnic minority going, Misa so rightly, like, 4 minutes in. Like, how can you not love that? And yeah, there's just perfect Hollywood. And a reminder, Michael, that the past was bad. And this movie isn't great anyway. But there's just this this movie. Again, there's just like an iconic piece of pop culture. Oh yeah, and it's got this white guy being an offensive Japanese person who's booked with going, "You shall disturb me." Just you love to see it. And also I like the bit when he. Audrey Hepburn says to him, promise not to be angry, and we can take those pictures that we mentioned. And then do you remember that? He smiles and goes like, when?
Yeah.
And then she goes, anytime. Again, the Japanese, they're all simple-minded perverts. They can be manipulated just by saying those things there. Again, just.
Yeah, and this was back before the Japanese were producing as much porn, so they didn't even have a reason to think that. Yeah,
I know. Like, just there is no. Like people like to talk about. It's inherently funny. Obviously, the portrayal is it's a stereotype, but it's inherently funny to think about. Oh yes, the era of classical Hollywood movies. Things were different back then. Oh, not like movies today. Oh, back in the day, those were the good little days, weren't they? When you made. When movies were something special, now you've got a lot of Marvel shit and all of that crap. But back in the 1960s, that's when Hollywood was at its peak. Hollywood made good movies, and like all the hoity-toityness of that, or this attitude, which I guess looks down at like modern movies and appreciates the classics. And then you watch this movie, and yeah, it's just Mickey Rooney going, Misa so rightly, like. Yeah, I love it, Michael. I love it. It's I guess what it reminds me of. I know it's not a direct comparison. I could probably think of a better one. That Key and Peele sketch. Do you remember that? With the actor who has.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah. I do know one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Blackface actor.
Yeah, and they're trying to treat his death with great reverence, and so they get out some old films of him appearing in Hollywood. And he's being like an offensive portrayal of black people. Yeah. I said blackface, but obviously the character himself is black, exactly. So that was not accurate. Yeah. It's like this. Look at these movies. They were so beautiful. The Galaxy advert that I mentioned right at the start. Moon River. Remember Breakfast at Tiffany's? Those were the days. So beautiful. And then Mickey Rooney bursts in. You so disturb me. Oh, me like the chocolate. Again, it's You love to see it. It's probably the second most offensive thing I've seen this week regarding a portrayal of Asian Americans by Americans in media. And do you want to know what the first? Yeah, I do want to know actually. Yeah. Well, glad you asked, Michael, because I've got something. And here's the thing: originally when we did this movie, or when we decided we were going to review this movie, I had set it up for the same week. We were Godzilla vs Kong was going to come out. I was like, yeah, we're doing Godzilla vs Kong. Obviously, Godzilla paying homage to an incredibly famous Japanese character, And to do that, we're going to review a movie with another incredibly famous Japanese character. Who is more iconic, Godzilla or Mr. Iannushi? Who knows? But I also this month saw this video. Michael, so I'm going to play this now, and I want you to be aware that the person singing this is a white lady who has blonde hair. I think that is a nice little cherry on top. Okay, you ready?
Yes, Luke, I'm ready. Oh.
Here we go. What do you think of that?
I think that was powerful, and I'd be heartbroken to hear if anyone was offended by that. That sounds like it was like, I don't know, like in my head I imagine it from TikTok, but I think TikTok videos are shorter than that.
It was Jennifer Murphy who's singing Racist Ninga song. That's the great thing in the video. Like, you just heard the audio. She's singing it in front of an Asian woman, and she keeps like looking at the Asian woman. Okay. And she goes, "I want to be ninja." Like I said, I think that's funny. I don't know, what is more offensive, that or Mr. Iannushi? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Mr. Iannushi, I guess it affects people more. Maybe you can make an argument, because you can make an argument, technically speaking, that some random person just casually being racist on their own. If
she wasn't random. I think she appeared on The Apprentice.
Yeah, okay.
The American version. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, yeah. I mean, that's pretty. Yeah, that is pretty offensive. I don't know. I mean,
I'm going to say that is more offensive, but I don't know.
I mean, it almost feels like it's so ridiculous. I don't know if there's such a thing as, that's so bad it's good. I don't know if that applies to racism.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so I guess we are at the end. Time for conclusions, Michael. You go first.
Good. Yes. So, okay, here's the thing. Like, ultimately, I'm going to start off by saying this, seeing as we ended by talking about Mickey Rooney. I'm going to say the whole Mickey Rooney thing, it doesn't really affect my appraisal of the film in that it's... I mean, I don't know, like it's just so kind of irrelevant to the rest of the film that it just feels like it just doesn't impact me. And I think, at the end of the day, yeah, the real prejudice would be to be prejudiced against this film just because it features a racist stereotype. But overall, it's just because there's like so many other things to focus on. And obviously the big issue is it's a romantic comedy where the romance, you just can't buy into it. There are kind of plot elements, which, especially when you watch it kind of again, you realize don't actually kind of come together to form any sort of coherent arc, but rather are just there to fill time, which is not a good thing to have in your film, I think. And yeah, you realize how much of it is kind of just wasted. And then obviously, unsurprisingly, if you've got, let's say 2 hours, it roughly is, to set up a relationship between two characters, and you spend a lot of that time with irrelevant kind of sideshows and racist characters, then you're going to find at the end of it that you have this relationship which isn't really very built up because you didn't build it up. And obviously that's not even to discount the fact that a lot of the time you did spend building up the relationship, didn't build it up in a particularly good way. There are some moments I like I said, I did like the idea of, let's have a date where we do things that we have never done before. That's a cute idea, but it didn't really add to anything. And I did say fine, bordering on good. I think having thought about it more, I'm now more in the direction of bad, bordering on fine. And I think, we've mentioned What Women Want, and I gave that a 4 out of 10. I also think this film is a 4 out of 10. And honestly, I think... See, it's difficult because the only reason why I would possibly rate this film higher than What Women Want is because it's kind of more of a classic. But I really don't know if I want to give it that credit. So I'm actually going to put it below What Women Want. And I guess I'm going to put it above Aquaman, but below Godzilla 98. So there we go. Between two, I mean, we've made lots of kind of references to superhero films. So yes, there it is. It's a low 4. What about you, Luke?
Well, I think, Michael, that I actually do care about racism. So the Mickey Rooney thing, it is going to knock my rating down of the movie. And I think, look, you may say it's kind of irrelevant to the movie, and yes, it is, of course, but that's what makes it, if you like, that much worse, that it didn't need to be in the movie, but it still was. Like, why was it there in the first place if it wasn't necessary? Especially as Blake Edwards, the director, made the choice to change the Mr. Yanoshi character from the book, who's just a Japanese guy who's got an American accent, who's basically assimilating to America. I think it's fair to say it's one of the most racist portrayals in American movie history of an ethnic minority. So, you know what, Michael? I'm going to say yes, that counts against this movie. Maybe I just care about racism, and you don't. Maybe people listening can make that distinction if they would like.
It looks like when it came to racism, I didn't go rightly.
Haha, that's good. That's clever. Right. So, I think, like you said before, Michael, stuff just seems to happen throughout the movie. Like, there's bits and pieces here and there. Like, there's a party. Oh, her old husband turns up, who married her at 14. You love to see it. And, Also, what we forgot to mention, a very interesting thing we forgot to mention, that she calls Paul, who, of course, she eventually falls in love with, Fred, because she reminds him... or she is reminded of her brother while looking at him, because they look similar. So what would you think about that?
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, that is pretty.
Some Freudian stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, this movie. That's the thing. It's like, it's a beautiful. Romantic...
Although maybe this was like the original kind of friend zone. Like, I see you as a brother.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a beautiful romantic comedy set in New York. It's an absolute classic Hollywood tale. Features an incredibly racist depiction of a Japanese person. The character was married at 14 years of age to this guy who's in his mid-30s, and we're not meant to think he's a bad guy. And also, she pines after some man who looks a lot like her brother, and she literally calls him her brother after she's had sex with him, or we assume that's happened. So some interesting things about the movie, which you love to see. You can't get enough of these type of movies. And I guess although it is a classic, I don't care, Michael. I don't care for stature. I analyze things on how they should be, regardless of reputation. And yes, of course, the dress that Audrey Hepburn wore was iconic, but we can disregard that, because does that make a good movie if the dress looks good, if her hair looks good? No, because I'm not gay, Mike. No, okay.
I mean, to be fair, it's actually quite feminist to not care about how she looks.
Exactly. I don't care how she looks. She could have looked like Susan Boyle, or...
She could have looked like a Japanese stereotype.
Yeah, or Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah. She could have been Rosie O'Donnell in that movie where she plays someone mentally challenged. Riding the bus with my sister. That was it. She could have played that, and it wouldn't have hurt the movie for me, because I don't care about that. I care about the plot, and of course there's twists and turns across this story, and they end up together in the way you would expect. But like I said before, the romance isn't good. They don't change each other or have their perspectives on life altered by the other, and that ain't great, and it just feels kind of flat when they finally get together. So all in all, Michael, I think this is a pretty bad movie. I said at the start it's fine, but after really considering it and digging through it and thinking, did I enjoy it? No. I mean, look, there's a novelty of watching a movie that was made 60 years ago, and all the stuff that went down there, and how the characters talk and how they look. There's a novelty which I like, but overall, if I analyse just the movie on its face and try and disregard the novelty, the reputation, no, this isn't a good movie. And I don't want to put it worse. Remember when we went at Grease, Michael? Remember that?
Grease.
I gave Grease a 3.5.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm going to give this also a 3.5 out of 10. I think it's probably... I mean, to be honest, Grease is actually worse. But Grease is worse, but it doesn't have the offensive portrayal of a Japanese person.
Yeah, Grease is more tedious.
Exactly.
I mean, I suppose actually there is a massive question regarding the Japanese person of like the... See, I almost feel like it's an interesting quasi-philosophical debate about like the enjoyment of being able to, as a non-racist person, find it very funny, because it is, as you pointed out, very funny in terms of just like, oh my god, what were they thinking?
That's why it's funny.
Yeah, I know, that's kind of the thing. Whereas obviously, so it's kind of like, in some sense, there's part of you that has to be like, well, it technically does increase the enjoyment of the film, but just for the wrong reasons.
It's like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia scene where they where one of them is in blackface, where they recreate. What's that movie called?
Oh, Lethal
Weapon. That's it. Yeah, with Murtaugh and Riggs, and one of them dresses up in blackface, and it's like, again, the blackface isn't funny. It's the fact that they've actually. The characters in the show made a movie with a guy in blackface. Anyway, that's how I feel about this movie as well. But again, that was a joke in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This is a classic Hollywood movie, an iconic movie. I go, oh, Misa saw right. God, that's never going to get old for me. Anyway, Michael, what are we doing next week?
Well, next week we are doing a real classic. It is Jojo Rabbit. It's not a classic at all.
Yes, Jojo Rabbit. We are going to be talking about the Oscar
Yes.
movies once again and the build up to the 2021 Academy Awards. And yeah, we're going to be reviewing last year's Best Picture nominees once more. We've already done a couple earlier on this year. So yeah, we're going to be continuing and picking back up with Jojo Rabbit. So yeah, thank you for listening. We've been selecting and reflecting on Breakfast at Tiffany's. Again, another old movie which does not hold up in many ways, I think it's fair to say. Yes, Audrey Hepburn's hair might have been nice, but a movie isn't good just because of that. I think that's fair to say. Join us next week for Jojo Rabbit. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.